Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is NZXT's H510i, a premium compact mid-tower ATX PC gaming case that features a really subtle understated design, a couple of RGB LED strips that are really subtly hidden and add a nice sort of glow to the case, and some basic features that are pretty nifty. And this is an unboxing video to show you what's in the box and also talk about the various features and facets of the case, including the highlights to it. You'll note that it comes with a smart Hue 2 bridge that's already connected, and all the control boxes in the back and all the cables are already connected for you, so it's a really easy setup. This video includes a time-lapse installation at the end. If you want to see that separately with none of me waffling over the top of it, I've also done another video which is just the build. But I wanted to show you what's in the box and give you highlights of the case, including close-up views of the insides and all the joys and some of the frustrations, because there are a couple of weird oddities to the design which I found a bit odd during the build process. Now this is around $100, £100, and which makes it a pretty affordable case. It has a tempered glass side so you can see the innards of your machine and admire the beauty of it. Obviously comes with two fans already installed, one on the top and one at the rear. Those aren't RGB fans, but you could in theory add RGB fans in if you wanted to. Now for reference, the setup that I'm using during this installation process is included in the description and includes a pretty nifty setup with a high-end CPU, 32 gigs of RAM, and a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060 Super, so it looks pretty awesome. And the tempered glass side panel means you get to see all the build in all its glory at the end, and if you're into that sort of thing, there's vertical GPU mounting as well, which I'll show off, which means you can see your GPU in all its glory, which is well worth doing if you've got the RTX Super range, because they look fantastic. The case itself is pretty compact, as you'd imagine, and fairly understated. One thing I will note that you'll see at the end is it's a real fingerprint magnet. The outside of the case has this matte black design to it, but it somehow manages to pick up any of the oils from your fingers quite easily. Also, the top only has the power button, one standard USB port and a USB-C port, and the audio output. So there's not much in the way of front panel connectors, which is a bit of a frustration. However, the case itself is generally really nice. It feels like a nice solid build, and obviously removable side panels, and as you can see, vertical GPU mounting on the back. This is one of the frustrations I'll note that you'll see a bit later on, is that for some reason the plates where you install the graphics card and other PCI peripherals use actual screws rather than the thumb screws. Well, coming from using Corsair cases that always have thumb screws on them, make them easy access, you actually have to use a screwdriver to get these ones off. Very minor point in an otherwise pretty interesting and solid case. The tempered glass panel comes off fairly easily. It's held on place with one screw, and then you just yank it off, obviously taking care because it is glass. Also comes with the protective film, which you'll get to see peel off at the end if you're into that sort of thing. Now on the inside, as I said, you get an RGB LED strip which is hidden behind that NZXT chunk of metal there, which also works really well to hide the cables that you'll see a bit later on too. And the removable front tray for installing any extra fans, or the radiator if you're using an all-in-one cooler, which is what I use. Now it's worth noting that it'll only fit a 280mm radiator, so you can fit 240mm fans or 220mm fans. So I went for a 240mm all-in-one cooler from Corsair to install on the front there. As I said, the case comes with two fans pre-installed. You'll note one on top, one at the rear. Those are both 120mm as standard. The top one will support 140mm if you want to swap it out. However, the rear only supports 120. So you don't get a great deal of options in terms of fanage. Also, those NZXT ones are pretty standard. They're not too exciting, and I think that's the highlight of this case, is no frills, but still a pretty premium decent design to it, and there are a number of really cool facets to it. So removing the back panel, for example, you get to see a nice bit of cable channeling that you'll see in a second, and that is great for cable tidying purposes. There are various hooks and places where you can hide the cables away, and there's plenty of space for building back there as well. I only installed one standard SSD drive, no hard drives, but you can install standard platter hard drives. There's a tray at the bottom, which I'll also note, you'll see here, it currently has the little cardboard box with all the screws and everything else in it. You can actually remove that tray as well to make more space. Now at the rear you can see, as I said, the control box for the lighting and for the fans is already pre-installed with all the cables tidied away nicely for you, so that you don't even need to worry about that. Now the box at the bottom, as I said, that is the platter hard drive tray. You can remove that too to make extra room down there, which is something I did, gave me more space for power cables because I wasn't planning on putting hard drives in there. And you can see the channeling around the back here and Velcro straps for tying all the cables down. There's also a nice gap from the front where you can bring the cables through and then hide them out of sight and make things nice and neat. All your front panel connectors are already tidied and put in the right place, or you just need to work out how to thread them through, and then you get your little box of all the different screws, an instruction manual and other bits. And they do supply cable tidies, which is joyful because obviously you want to make sure your cables are nice and tidy for airflow purposes. And there's plenty of room, as I said, for building whatever you're going to be building and making sure you've got enough airflow through the case. I found it was actually really easy to build in this machine. Didn't go over the top with what I was installing. As I said, there's only one SSD drive, no hard drives, but generally speaking, I found it was really easy, plenty of space. And the end result looks pretty good too. Hopefully you'll agree when you get to see it. There's various cables inside the box, including an HD audio splitter, numerous different screws for all your purposes, cable tidies, and audio adapter, which works as a splitter for headphones and microphone. And again, a close-up of the rear. I really like that it comes with the RGB stuff already installed for you. All you need to do is download the cam software, which I'll link to in the description, which is similar to what you might have seen when I did the Hue 2 backlighting setup on the monitor. This is another way of getting lighting into your case. And there's also a space on that control box for another one, so if you wanted to add more NZXT RGB strips into the case, you could do that. Although, to be honest, I'm not quite sure where you do it. I couldn't find anywhere around the front necessarily to run them. You can't run them along the bottom at the front underneath the glass. I suppose you could run them across the PSU caddy area, but there's not a great deal of options. That's not necessarily a problem. I think if you're going for this case, you're not necessarily too bothered about RGB. And if you are, you can always swap out those fans for 120mm RGB fans. I wanted to keep this one fairly understated, and the fact that it comes with those strips mean you get a slight glow out of the case, but it's not too obnoxious, which is pretty neat. Now here you can see a time lapse of the build, and if you watch carefully, you'll notice a number of mistakes I made. Because I am a clumsy buffoon, I've never purported to be an expert. Like here, I had one frustration where I couldn't get the PSU screw in. Also had fun with the I/O shield, as you should in any of these builds. Here you can see another angle of the case that shows you the top fan. You can see there is room for a 140mm fan there. The fans themselves don't look that special. They look pretty cheap. They seem to run quite quietly though, and you can see that a bit later on as well. The highlight is definitely one of the cable channeling and that hiding plaque, the metal plaque. You can see in a minute running the power cables from the motherboard through and underneath that, so you can then hide them behind and make everything look really nice and spiffing, and it is fantastic in that way. All in all, this has been a pretty interesting case to build with, and a really nice design that's pretty affordable. There's not much left to say really, but you can see from the time-lapse of the build that it was really easy. There's plenty of different options in terms of where to channel your power cables. You'll also note, as I said, about the fingerprint marks on the outside of the case, so don't go touching the case too much because you'll certainly need to wipe it down, that matte finish. The SSD trays are easy access. You can install 2 on there, and then you've got the option to install more in the caddy at the bottom, but as I said, that's removable. You'll note all the extra space that gives you for your power cables as well, so if you're not going to install platter hard drives, that's definitely worth doing. Now you get to see the standard installation of the GPU in its standard position, and then with the vertical mounting as well. Both of these look great. Vertical mounting looks particularly good through that glass panel door. I'm going to leave you to enjoy the rest of the time-lapse build and the finished results. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and come back for more in future. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and check out the description for all the links that you need to find out more, the specifications of the case itself for anything I might have missed, and the links to the setup that I use in this case if you're interested in seeing what gear is installed here. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for watching.